Welcome to our webinar with Melissa Wolf. And today we are going to do a very important and exciting topic, even though it's kind of an administrative thing, but it is an important thing about how to create college-ready high school transcripts for homeschooling students. Okay, so with that, I'll turn over the time to Melissa and to give the presentation. You can share your screen, okay? So if you want, you
Okay.
can do that and we can record that also.
I might need a little help to share my screen, but I think I don't need it right at the beginning. Does that make
Okay, excellent. Yep,
so?
I'll be here to help you.
Okay, great. Okay, so first I want to talk a little bit about reasons you might need a transcript. So sometimes we think a transcript is just for college experiences and that's it. But sometimes when you're getting ready, if your child's going to participate in sports through the public school, you might need a transcript for that. It's not just for applying to college as a college freshman, but also if you decide to start college before they are college freshmen and you do dual credit or concurrent enrollment, sometimes that will be asked for. Occasionally there are scholarships that will ask for a transcript. This isn't very common, but it can come up. And then certain car insurances will ask for a transcript if you want to have a good student discount. So it can be nice to have a transcript of ready to go in case that comes up, so you can just send it to your car insurance. So it is always better to get started on a college transcript earlier, a high school transcript earlier rather than later. It's really not very fun to do your student's high school transcript 2 weeks before you're supposed to be graduating high school, or as they're trying to apply in the fall for college. That's a really stressful time to do it. So I suggest that you do it along the way as your child starts to take on high school level classes, which I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that typically at a public school, you will not have classes on your transcript until you are a certain age. But in homeschooling situations, you can start putting classes on a transcript as soon as your student is doing what you would consider high school level work. So if they are younger than high school age, but they're doing language arts at a high school level, you can go ahead and put that on their transcript. So for instance, and I actually learned this from public schools. This is something that I did when I was in 7th grade. I took high school biology and I took another high school level class, language arts class, and they were on my transcript until I took those later on in high school and replaced them. So they followed me through to my high school. So this is not a super crazy uncommon thing, but it is a little different than how we normally think of transcripts. We normally think that's just for high school age, but it's as soon as they can start doing high school work. So if your child who's 8th grade is ready to take on something more significant science-wise or history-wise, then you can go ahead and start putting that on their transcripts. And typically a public school will say the year at the top, which I'll show you in a little bit, an example of a transcript, but they'll say the year that the student was in 9th grade, but you don't have to put that on there. There's not a rule that you need to do that. So you can just say 9th grade work. And even though you might know that some of that, because one of the beautiful things about homeschooling is that you can let your kids surge ahead in the areas that they are surging ahead in. And so you can say they did 9th grade work and put it under 9th grade, even though they may get there much sooner than, let's say that's in language arts, and let's say their math, they take a little bit longer and they don't reach 9th grade level at the same age. You can still put both of those under 9th grade because they're 9th grade work. So I want to talk a little bit about what counts as a credit. So you can choose to do 1 credit being equaling a 1-year class, or 2 credits equaling a 1-year class. All that really matters is that you are consistent for all 4 years. So you don't start 1 year saying a year class, you don't start 9th grade and say this year class is 1 credit, and then suddenly in 11th grade you're like a year class is 2 credits. That's just confusing, and since you're in charge of the transcript and you're making it, you wouldn't switch. So just be consistent. So typically a student will have 7 or 8 classes that are full year classes, and that would either equal 7 or 14, or 7 if you're using 1 credit to equal a year, and 14 if you're using 2 credits to equal a year. So when you're getting ready to do the transcript, you're going to want to just, decide, am I doing 14 or am I doing 7? Am I doing 16 or am I doing 8? And in a little bit, I'll talk to you about why you might want 7 versus 8 classes. Your college will be used to both situations, and there's different reasons to do more or less. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what counts as a credit? So typically 120 to 180 hours with the material is considered a credit from a public school perspective, which is interesting because 180 days is how many days that kids go to public school or are supposed to go to public school. So that wouldn't count any homework time if you're thinking about that from a credit. So they essentially don't really count it, which is very fascinating to me. But so you can look at how many hours are put into the subject and say, okay, you did 120 hours, that's enough. If your student does concurrent classes and they're doing a college level class through a college, then you can count that as their high school credit. One thing that's tricky is a semester then would equal a 1-year class. So if you're using 1 credit for a 1-year class, then a 3 credit class would not be 3 years of science. It would just be 1 credit of science. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, when you get ready to grade those, you can remember that that's college level work that they were doing. And so if you're saying that you're giving them credit for high school level, you don't have to necessarily use the grade that the college instructor gave them. You could use a different grading scale because for your transcript, you're expecting them to do high school level work, not college level work. So you could say, like, if they get a B in the college level work, you could say, well, that's worth an A in high school. Or the other option is that you as the parent could say, well, you got a C in this class in college and I'm not satisfied with that. And so I'm only going to put it on your transcript if you do extra learning for me, so that I can then put an A on your high school transcript. So that's an option too. When another thing that you can do is if you look at your child's different interests and you're like, they have had all these different interests that are kind of loosely related, but none of them individually add up to 1 class. You can combine them into 1 class. So you could there's some broad category classes like intro to the arts, right? Or the humanities is a pretty broad category class. So you can add up the hours from different things that your student has learned to equal that 120 to 180 hours. One of the things that I do on my students' transcripts is that I also have a space down at the bottom for extracurricular classes. And these are classes that don't add up to those amounts, but they're interesting classes that my student might have taken. So there was a little while where one of my daughters in a high school age got very interested in Latin. And so she took a Latin class, but it didn't equal anything close to a full year of Latin. And so we just put it on her transcript as an extracurricular class for her, because I thought that it painted a picture of who my child was and who my student was, which this is the important thing to remember about transcripts, is that the whole goal with a transcript is to paint a picture of your student to the school or organization. Okay, obviously not if you're just turning it into your car insurance. They don't care. They just want to know what the grades are. But for most purposes, most people are creating a transcript for college. And the goal is to paint a picture of who your student is to the college. So when they're looking at this transcript, they kind of have an idea of like what your student is going to be interested in studying or learning about when they're in school. In the college. So that's one of the reasons to put extracurricular activities, which we have the ability to do as a homeschool parent because we're creating our own transcripts. And public schools don't have anywhere for that kind of stuff to go. Like they were in Glee Club. That doesn't even go on there. You have to talk about that somewhere else. But it does help paint a picture. Who is this student? What do they like? What are they interested in? That's the point of the transcript. Some other ways to get credit or to give your child credit is to go through 3/4 of a textbook, a traditional textbook. I know most of us homeschoolers think you got to start at the beginning and you have to end at the end, or you don't count it, you didn't do it. But that's not even how they do it at public schools. They a lot of times they'll throw out like the first quarter if of the book because it's review, or the last, they won't even make it through all the way through the book. So 3/4 is plenty to make it through. If your child can complete a 10-page research paper and they can use at least 3 sources, then you can give them credit for a class because that's a culmination of a class. That's what you would do at the end of a psychology class or a history class. A 10-page paper is pretty ambitious for a high school student. And yet if your student is super fascinated by a topic, they don't necessarily need to go back and learn more about American history if they've been studying about American history and loving it their whole life. Write a paper, have at least 3 pieces in it, 10-page paper. A 30-minute speech or presentation or demonstration to a group of people who are not your family could also count because 30 minutes is a lot of time to share information, to give people like an overview of a topic, and it's sort of an equivalent final project from a class. So it demonstrates that same learning that you would expect by the end of a year of work. If you complete a college course, then of course, then you can put that on the high school transcript. If your student passes any kind of exam, like a CLEP test or an AP exam, these are, if you haven't heard of these before, they're college level credits. There's a few others. Driver's training can count as a class for your student. And I think sometimes homeschoolers forget that. And then you'll have this whole, I'll have people come to me to talk about transcripts and they'll have a whole and they'll be like, what can I put in here? And I'll be like, well, did your kid take driver's training? And they'll be like, oh yeah, they did. A lot of high schools will put that on their students' transcript. So you can put it on there too. It is a class that they have taken. So things to think about when you're titling classes, you can think about introduction to something, or so like I have a student who she took several years of ballroom dance in high school. So she had like intro to ballroom dance, and then she had ballroom dance, and then she had advanced ballroom dance. So that was 3 different classes. And again, you can kind of see how that paints a picture of who that student is. And so, yeah, like it shows you, this is who this student is. So I want to try to share my screen now. If I can, let's see if I can figure out how to open a different tab that is not, I don't want to just share the screen. That is, oh, nope, that didn't.
So when you click on the share screen button, okay, it's going to give you the option to share the whole screen or just one particular application. Okay, if you want to share a particular application, you have to have it open all ready to do that.
Okay, just a second. Let me
Yes.
get that open. Okay. I think, yeah. So I have like a kind of a little slideshow and then I can click through it. So if I open the slideshow, is that going to work to show the screen?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah,
okay,
that will be fine.
okay, all right. Okay, I have it open. I don't know.
So did you click on share screen?
Okay, well,
So
oh,
if you have
yes,
it open.
I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't, oh shoot, hold on.
So usually it's better, okay, Melissa, if you share the screen before and then start the presentation. Okay.
Okay,
All right. So, you can end the presentation, all right, then share the full screen, and then I can help you that way also.
okay, I'm not
You
sure.
share the full screen. On
Share.
Zoom, you should see a green button at the bottom of the Zoom screen that says share screen. Okay.
Um, hmm. It's it's saying desktop and I'm
Yeah.
clicking share,
Click on share desktop. Okay. And then click on the share button. Okay.
but it's not doing it. I can see that it didn't work.
Uh-huh.
Oh goodness. Hmm. It might not work.
Is it a PowerPoint presentation or is it
PowerPoint.
Google
It's a Google slide.
Google slide? So share the Google slide with me, okay, and then I'll do the presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
How?
So you go to the Google slide, okay, and then you click on the top right corner. There's a share button,
Mhm.
okay, and then you click on anyone with this link can view, all right, and then
Yes.
copy that link, and then you
Okay.
can put it into the chat here, and then I can try to do that.
Okay. Let's see. Chats. Just under everyone or?
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, I guess I can actually just, okay. I just saw that I can just send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
And
So you shouldn't send me the URL of the slideshow. Okay. On the top right corner, there's a share button, and that opens a dialog box. And then underneath, you can change to say anyone with this link is a viewer. Okay. I need that link.
okay.
Okay. Because the link that you send me is kind of your private link.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, it says, okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I
No
figured.
problem.
Let's try this again. No, it's still saying, it's just saying this.
Okay, let's see.
That's
Now I have it. Now I have it. Okay.
okay,
All right. So
okay,
I'm going to share the screen.
okay.
Okay. All right. So
Okay, and I just want to say thank you everyone for having patience. Okay, so
go ahead.
okay, so this is this first page is, and I'll just let you know when I just need the next
Yep.
one. So this first page is kind of what classes do colleges expect. So this is not hard and fast. If you have a specific college that you're getting ready to send your child to, each college might have their own kind of things that they want to see in a transcript, like what do they want to see, say 4 years of a foreign language, 2 years of a foreign language. But this is kind of just a general idea when you're working on your transcript for what you would be looking for. Okay, so, how many years of math should I be looking for or trying to have my child do? Does that make sense? And what's interesting about homeschoolers is that sometimes we look at like life and we're like, okay, but my child's sort of living a lot of life, and then we're learning along the way, and how do I create that into and say that that's math, because it doesn't necessarily look like traditional math. I will talk through a couple of options with that when we get to the next slide, which I'm not ready for yet, but when we get there. But this is sort of what colleges expect to see on a transcript, okay? So they want to see typically about 4 years of literature and composition. And this could include classes such as speech, composition, creative writing. You literally could say English 1, English 2, English 3, English 4, or 9th grade, 12th, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade English. Things like world literature, American literature, mythology, great books, classics. These are the kinds of classes that college will want to see in those 4 years of literature and composition. Creative writing, things like that. So then they want to see typically 3 to 4 years of math. And this is where a lot of homeschoolers struggle. So some people are really, really fantastic at math and really lean into it. And so you'll see a lot of that in homeschooling, but you'll also see a lot of homeschoolers who struggle to do math. So when we get to the transcript that I'm sharing with you guys, I'll talk a little bit about how we handled math for my math phobic child. And then 2 to 4 years of science that could include things like, let me talk about the math for a second. This typically we see algebra, geometry, algebra 2, trigonometry, calculus, but you can also do 9th grade math, 10th grade math, 11th grade math, 12th grade math. That is okay. 2 to 4 years of science, things like biology, chemistry, physics, earth science, physical science, astronomy, environmental science. These are some of the sciences that we might not think of first. 2 to 3 years of history and social studies. This is like US history, world history, economics, psychology, geography, ancient history. So those are the different kinds of types of things. You don't need all of these things, obviously. I'm just giving ideas of like, what could we put down as the thing that we studied? I put optional 4 years of foreign language. Some colleges do not require any foreign language. Some of them require 4 years, or they encourage 4 years of a foreign language. So if you have a specific college you're looking at, you do probably want to look at what are they asking for on the transcripts. Most colleges want to see at least 1 year of the arts. I think we all know what that means. So like could be art, could be music. They want to see at least a year of that. The point of electives, and you do want electives in this transcript, is to stand out by developing in-depth knowledge in different areas of talent. So when you're looking at what electives you're putting on there, if you're like, oh, my child did so many years of this, should I only put one class down? The answer is actually no. You should put down that they did it for 4 years. So you can see this is a child who loves music. This is a child who loves dance. This is a child who loves creative writing or is very artistic, was huge into speech and debate. Those are the kinds of things so if they did many years of something, of really leaning into one thing, you definitely want to have your electives paint that picture of your child. Now, if you had a child who really didn't lean into one thing, but they did a bunch of different things, you can also put that down in their electives. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide now. Okay, so this is a sample transcript. This is sort of what your college will be expecting. If you can see, I have stuff blacked out up at the top, so I'll go over what those are. Basically, at the very top middle, which is kind of cut off in this picture, is just the name of the school that this transcript is from. So you can literally write high school transcript if you haven't named your school. Ours says Wolf Academy because our last name is Wolf, and that's kind of a cool last name and it's fun. And then the name of the student underneath of that, so that says blank Wolf, right? So that's one of my children's. This is one of my children's actual transcript. So the name of the student, graduation date, and then DOB is date of birth. On the left-hand side, you have name and address. Again, their date of birth. You don't necessarily need it 2 places, but it normally is on a lot of times on a high school transcript. And then their email. And then on the right-hand side, it's like school contact, and then it'll be like a phone number and an email. Okay, so that's all the blacked out stuff on the top. Then we see here, like 9th grade. So I'm going to just go over, because it is a little small. In this student, it says intro to dance instruction, because she taught a preschool dance class for this year. And so she was teaching dance because she'd already taken dance for several years, taught a preschool dance class. Chemistry with lab, great books, literature, Spanish 1, music, which was violin, algebra 1, and US history. This like all looks pretty normal. I'm going to tell you right now that this was not all taken in the same calendar year, but it was all the 9th grade level work. So it all goes in 9th grade. Then 10th grade is biology with lab, economics, Shakespeare, creative writing, world history, ballroom dance, game and set theory, math. So this is one of the things that we did with math, which was studying about game and set theory, which you could also do. We'll get to the other one. If you look over on 12th grade, she has mathematical reasoning. And so that one was more about logic and using solve world problems, because this is my most math phobic child who really struggled with doing math. She didn't want to, and so she wasn't ready for a higher level math in the traditional sense, and yet she's very logical and really enjoyed learning about game and set theory, knows some things about math that normal people walking around who have just done high school math do not know. So that's one of the ways that we handle that. So I'm going to go through the 11th grade. It's physics with lab, health, which sometimes is homeschool parents we might overlook as an option, ballroom dance 2, public speaking, world cultures, composition 1. So this composition is writing, and then driver's education. Then in 12th grade, she did communication, ballroom dance 3, composition 2, American history, public speaking practicum, mathematical reasoning, and leadership training. And for the public speaking practicum, she actually was able to present at several local homeschool conferences, and also present at like some other local venues around the area, because she loves public speaking so much. So she was doing that, and so we called that a practicum because it was practical use. If you see, you may notice that on this transcript, I've given my student only A's. And this is because we use what educators call a mastery approach. So it doesn't go on the transcript if I can't give them an A. So if I'm not satisfied that they've done enough to count as an A, then it might go down into extracurricular classes, or it might not ever make it on the transcript. Honestly, any college that you send your student's transcript to is going to believe that on some level, they're going to believe that homeschool moms are going to give their students an A no matter what. So I don't feel like it's worth fighting that system. So I'm just not even going to put it on there. Like, I'm going to tell my student, well, you need to do more, or I'm not going to put it on your transcript. Because that's, typically most colleges are going to assume that mom is going to put an A on there. And so rather than fight that, be a one woman like army fighting it, I just won't put anything on there that I can't justify an A for. And you may notice this student has only seven classes a year. This is because this student was leaning really hard into more specific classes, where I have my older child took a lot more variety. So she had 8 classes each year on her transcript. They are not going to see both of your child's transcripts right next to each other. That'll never happen. Or I can't imagine that really happening. Even if you have 2 students applying for school at the same time, they're not going to look at them together. So they're not going to be like, wait, this school did 7 classes here with this student, but only 8 with this student. Doesn't matter. Those rules don't apply to you. Down below, you have each year, you have GPA, cumulative GPA credits, and then cumulative credits. So you can see that each year, this is another reason to just do A's, because then you don't have to do any math for the GPA at all, because it's just a 4.0 the entire time, which it's not that difficult to do the math and figure out the new average based on everything. But it's also just easier to just say, okay, it's only going to go up there if it was good enough to make an A. Okay, so then down below, I have these 5 categories that are not typically on a high school transcript from a public school. And it's extracurricular activities, volunteer work, extracurricular classes, awards, and business and work experience. Now, if any of these 5 are not filled in at all for my students, I would just take them off. So I wouldn't leave volunteer work on there if my child had never done volunteer work. But you can see how like this student like leaned into things like dance and speech. She took a variety of like different extracurricular classes. She volunteered at the zoo and Birds of Prey. She has a work history, and then there's all these awards that she won while she was in it, which sometimes are a big deal and sometimes are not a big deal, right? But if your child has worked really hard, so for instance, I have a child who did Science Olympiad and went to nationals for Science Olympiad in middle school, but she was doing what like high school level work, what a lot of seniors in high school do in their science, and that level of math as well for the Science Olympiad. And so that award is going to go, went to nationals for Science Olympiad, is going to be on her transcript. So thinking about these extra categories is sort of like a bonus that you get to put on as a homeschool parent that a public school isn't going to send. It's not going to be on their transcript. There's nowhere for it to go. And as long as you can fit all of your stuff on one sheet of paper, which is kind of the point of a transcript, is for it to all be, well, like from the perspective of the administrators that are getting it, they get this picture of the student on one sheet of paper. So they want to see it all on one. So as long as you can get it on the one sheet of paper, then you can put it on there. You'll notice also that there's not long paragraphs of explanation. I don't think that that's necessary because that's not what they're used to seeing from public school students. The transcript is designed to be short and brief about each thing.
Question.
Yes.
If you have students that are taking classes, from a variety of places, they have some that you are doing just as homeschoolers, okay, others that may be taking classes with a well-educated Heart Academy or some other, community. Do you differentiate those in the transcript or not?
It's kind of up to you. Some parents, what they will do when they want to differentiate is they'll put like a little star next to some of them, and then down at the bottom they'll put a star and say attended another
Yeah, this other institution. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another institution. So they may actually say, Well-Educated Heart Academy, but they might just say attended at another institution. So one of the things that might matter is if one of those places is accredited. So
Mm-hmm.
if the place that you're taking classes from is not accredited, then they are not really going to necessarily want to see a transcript from them.
Mm-hmm.
So so this might be the only transcript you turn in that case.
So it's kind of the same thing. It doesn't matter in that case. Yeah.
In that case, yeah, and it's going to be also like, I never differentiate that if they've taken it at if they've taken a class in college, I don't differentiate personally, because high schools don't. If you take it concurrently, and you get credit for both, it's just
Okay.
on your high school transcript. So if you're taking a college class somewhere and you got a grade there, and then you are taking it on your transcript, this also, if you have two separate grades, if you've given them an A, you don't have any way to verbally justify why you did that. So in some ways, it's better to just have it on there. Not because I don't suggest that you give your child an A who got like a C or a D in college. But if you did then have them do follow-up work that you felt justified in A, then you could, right? Like, so there are reasons why you might want to give them a different grade. Or if they get a B in college work, then I think you totally are justified at that point in giving them an A in high school level work. So it's not like it has to be differentiated if you have taken it from another institution, but if you're turning in a transcript from another institution, you might want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think I'm ready to, I just want to go through the next slide really fast and then open it up to questions, because I just want to share, yeah, I'm looking at the time. So I want to, along with talking to you guys and sharing with you guys about the transcripts, I do individual transcript reviews for people. And this is where I take 2 hours with you and work on your child's transcript. So you may have one already in progress, or you might be just starting from scratch. But you'll also get like a follow-up contact where you can like email questions or whatever afterwards. You'll learn how to really tailor your transcript based on the institution or what you're trying to accomplish. And I actually will share, if you decide you want to do this with me, I will share the transcript template that you've seen here. I will share that with you as a template where you can fill it in. And I've already done the work of setting up the template for you. The regular price for this is $75, but I am offering to you guys a $45 special. You sign up before the 7th, but we can even schedule after the holidays if that's what you want. But the price is only good through the 7th. But yeah, so this is something that I offer. And I just wanted to talk about that before we get into questions, so that everybody is aware that that is available. If for some reason I don't answer your question, or you feel like I didn't have time to give you thorough enough. So how you would sign up for that is you just need to email me and say, hey, I want the Academy special, but how do I sign up? And we'll get payment set up and everything. So if we can turn the screen, can we turn the screen back so that I can see if people ask questions and let people open it up?
Yes, absolutely. So if you have questions, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the questions verbally, or if you want, you can type your questions in the chat. Okay. So however you prefer to do it. All right. So we appreciate that. So this is actually very interesting. I imagine that you have had a good experience with your children and other students, that other families that you coach and mentor in order to do this work of transcripts. how has been your experience from the college admission point of view? Okay.
So I have each of my children. So I have 4 children, and 3 of them have started college classes. They have all started college classes at age 16 so far. The youngest is 15, and she wants to start college classes before she turns 16 so she can beat all of her older sisters to go to college first. But so they've all started like 1 or 2 college classes at that age. So that was their initial, like I had to come up with a transcript and it wasn't finished. So we've had success with those transcripts. And then the older 2, so I still have a 17-year-old who's in the process of applying for college, who has been accepted to 1 college already, and then is working on applying to another college that she's hoping to get accepted to. And I'm not concerned. I feel very confident with what the transcript looks like and what our experiences have been in the past. But my older 2 daughters have gone on to other institutions and college with those transcripts. So yeah, and I've helped probably 150 people set up transcripts like this, using this, and then working with them. I've taught many more than that in a forum like this, so I don't know how many, but individually working with people and working on their transcripts to make it, the best that they can, and coming up with class titles, or like, what do I do with this? What do I do with that class? I see a question from Anne about BYU's instructions to homeschoolers. So does that mean we wouldn't include anything not accredited? Yes, I can tell you for sure that BYU is not going to want to see a transcript at all. They will not accept your transcript if it is not accredited. So they will not want to see it from Well-Educated Heart Academy unless it is accredited. They will not want to see it from you as a homeschool parent. BYU Idaho, on the other hand, will want to see your transcript, and they will look at it. And so, the next question, would we just submit the transcript from the institution? Yes. So if you have somewhere that's accredited that you took some credits with, you would send those in. So like, for instance, my daughter who's trying to, I have a daughter who's working on applying to BYU. And so when she's applying to BYU, all of her college credits will be submitted because those are accredited, but we will not submit a high school transcript for her to BYU. But again, BYU Idaho does want it. I don't know about BYU Hawaii. I haven't had anybody or worked with anybody who wanted that. They will just throw away your transcript if you try to send it in. If you try to send it in and they said accredited only, they don't care and they won't look at it. So it doesn't mean it's not valuable to have gone through this process if you've done it along the way. And if you apply to other schools, as well.
That doesn't mean that you cannot apply to BYU.
You can absolutely apply.
Is that you can apply, but you just don't submit your unaccredited transcript.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. You can still apply to BYU. There's several different options for doing that. And I know at this time, I will just tell you this, that they are not making everybody do SATs or ACTs, but if you have less than 24 accredited credits, they will require you to take the SAT or ACT. That's I happen to know it about that institution because we're in the process of that. So
Kimberly has her hand raised. Okay. Kimberly.
So my question was about the so the college credits, if you were saying like if they're in high school and they get a B in college credit, like I'm gonna give them an A because it was high school level effort. It was, and hard work, right? Yes. So then if I use the credit and apply for college and use it as a credit thing, are they gonna be like, you're a liar? I don't know.
No, like so here's the thing, 2 things. One, they're probably not gonna know they're not gonna know necessarily that was the same class. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
also, like, they're probably not going to look at your transcript as closely as that.
Okay. Okay.
So the answer is no, that it will not be it. They will not be like, you're a liar.
Okay.
I can see why you would be concerned about that, but no, because even colleges understand that there's college level and there's high school level, right? And
Yeah.
that those are
Okay.
not the same thing. Um, it
Okay.
would be concerning, of course, if you gave your child an A and they had gotten a C or D in the
Gotcha.
college level. But if it's just out,
And so then I'm still gonna be able to turn in, so then when I go to do like a credit, I want to get credit for college, right? Because that's kind of
Yeah.
like part of the reason that we do that. So
Right.
I'm still gonna be turning in some kind of transcript from the college
Yes. Yeah.
and
you,
and the homeschool transcript at the same time.
yes, as long as the university you're applying to wants your homeschool transcript.
Okay. Yep.
But the thing to remember is that they will weight those, they probably will weight those college classes higher anyways, because that's college level work, right?
Right.
And so
Mhm.
they're trying to decide if you can do college level work. That's the whole point of getting a transcript, doing an STT, doing the ACT, turning in essays, is to make sure that you can do college level work.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Anybody else?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see if there's any other last minute question here, either in the chat or if you raise your hand. But this has been very informative and very helpful. Okay, we'll be sending the recording as soon as I can. Okay, and notifying everyone that signed up for this about the recording being available. So,
Awesome.
Excellent. Any parting question, comments, smart remarks? So we really appreciate your presentation, Melissa, and your expertise and your offer also. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I
you.
hope that several people can take advantage of this special offer and the opportunity to be able to tailor their transcript for their students. Okay. So thank you so much.